Let me start with something that might sting a little, but it's the truth. If you're watching this video, there's a very good chance you're letting women treat you like an option rather than a priority. And before you get defensive, let me explain. This isn't about being manipulative. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. And it's certainly not about trying to trick anyone. This is about taking control of your own value, showing confidence, and becoming the kind of man she will want, regardless of how many options she has. Here's the harsh reality. Most men believe that if a woman has options, it's game over. They think that if she's talking to other guys, texting others, or simply living her life without waiting on them, they've already lost. And what do most of these men do? They panic. They text too much, over-explain themselves, try to win her over, or worse, they beg for attention that should never have been up for negotiation. Sound familiar? If it does, don't worry, you're not alone, but this is exactly why you need to pay attention. Here's the controversial part. She won't choose you because you like her more than she likes you. It's harsh, I know, but it's also 100% true. Men spend decades being told that love is about pursuit and that if you're persistent enough, she'll eventually commit. That's not reality. In real life, attraction is about perceived value, confidence, and independence. She doesn't need you. She's not waiting for you to chase her down and prove that you're worth it. If you don't believe me, just look around. The most desirable men rarely chase. They attract. And the truth is, the more she senses that you need her, the less she respects and desires you. So how do you flip the script? How do you go from being an option in her mind to the man she actively chooses over anyone else? First, you need to understand one thing. This isn't about controlling her or limiting her freedom. It's about controlling yourself, your energy, and the way she perceives you. Women, like all people, are drawn to people who are secure, independent, and magnetic. And here's the kicker. It's possible to become that man even if she seems to have options lined up. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman who's casually talking to 3 different guys. One of these guys is constantly texting her, agreeing with everything she says, and letting her dictate the pace of their interactions. The other guy has a life of his own, doesn't bend over backward to please her, and knows that if she's not interested, he'll simply walk away. Guess which guy she's thinking about at 3 a.m. when she's alone? That's right. The one who values himself enough to not compete for validation. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, but won't that push her away? That's a common fear, and here's the controversial truth. If she's right for you, nothing you do will push her away. If she's not, nothing you do will make her stay. That's the mindset shift most men never make. Instead of wasting energy on convincing, chasing, or overanalyzing, the most powerful move is to increase your own value, live your life fully, and let her see that she has to choose to be a part of it. This video isn't about some secret trick or manipulative tactic. It's about changing your approach, your energy, and your perspective. By the end of this, you'll understand why confidence, independence, and clarity are far more attractive than effort, pleading, or desperation. You'll learn how to position yourself as someone who naturally stands out, so that even if she has options, she feels drawn to you. Not because you begged, but because you're a man she respects and wants. And here's the thing, it's not just about attraction. It's about power dynamics, about understanding how to be someone who chooses himself first, sets boundaries, and refuses to settle for anything less than respect. Men often underestimate how much women notice confidence, subtle dominance in social interactions, and authenticity. They're watching, even if you think they're not, and these signals can make the difference between being ignored and being the guy she actively chooses. So buckle up, because in this video, we're going to break down exactly how to position yourself as the man she wants, even when she has other options. We'll cover the mindset, the behaviors, and the subtle strategies that most men never learn because they're too busy following outdated advice or letting fear control them. By the time you finish watching, you'll know how to shift from being an option to being the obvious choice, without ever compromising your integrity, dignity, or self-respect. Remember this, The world doesn't reward neediness, it rewards value. The man who understands his own worth and lives with purpose is the one women fight to keep in their lives. And yes, it's controversial to say this, but it's true. If you're chasing too hard, begging for attention, or letting her options scare you, you've already lost. But if you do this right, if you apply these principles correctly, you'll become the man she doesn't want to lose, no matter who else is in the picture. Stop chasing, start living. Let's get straight to the point. If you're constantly chasing her, texting her first, agreeing with everything she says, or showing up whenever she wants, you're doing it wrong. And here's the truth most men refuse to admit. Chasing destroys attraction. It's harsh, but it's real. She doesn't respect or desire what comes too easily. When you chase, you're signaling neediness. Neediness kills desire. Most men think that if they work harder, text more, or prove themselves, she will finally commit. That's a lie society has been feeding men for decades. She's not going to choose you because you try harder than anyone else. She's going to choose you because you live a life she wants to be a part of. Think about this. You're a man who spends every evening waiting for her message, analyzing her last text, and wondering why she didn't reply immediately. Meanwhile, she's out, living her life, talking to other people, laughing, enjoying her freedom. And what's happening on your side? Anxiety, overthinking, self-doubt. You're losing value in your own eyes and in hers. That's the first problem. Now, flip the script. Imagine you stop over-texting, stop trying to please her constantly, and start living your life on your terms. You focus on your hobbies, your work, your fitness, and your social life. You're busy, you're confident, you're not available every second of the day, and then she notices. Suddenly she's curious. Why isn't he chasing me like the others? Why is he living his life without me? That curiosity sparks attraction. When a man has his own world, it's magnetic. Here's something most men don't get. Your absence makes her want you more. Not ignoring her in a rude way, but being engaged in your life, passionate about your goals, and uninterested in bending to her schedule or validation. Women subconsciously notice this. Men who chase constantly are invisible in terms of desire. They become predictable and safe. Men who live with purpose, independence, and focus are exciting and rare. That's why she starts thinking about you without you needing to remind her of your existence. Let's put this into a real situation. You meet a woman and she's clearly interested, but she's also talking to other guys. Most men would text her nonstop, try to make her jealous, or drop everything to be available. Instead, you go home, hit the gym, meet friends, and work on a personal project. You don't disappear completely, but your life is too full to revolve around her. The next time you see her, she's drawn to your energy. She notices your confidence, your independence, your focus. You've become the man she wants, not the man who's desperate for her attention. Here's the controversial truth. Men who chase too hard are actually hurting their chances more than they think. Women may enjoy attention at first, but attention without self-respect creates boredom and disinterest over time. The man who is busy, has boundaries, and doesn't need constant validation is the man who stands out. That's why stepping back is not giving up. It's strategy. It's the only way to show her that you have a life of your own, and she's going to have to choose to be part of it. Another important point, chasing gives her power. When you're always available, she controls the pace, the attention, and the dynamic. That imbalance makes it harder for her to commit. On the other hand, when you live fully, she sees that you're in charge of your own happiness, not hers. That's the essence of attraction. It's not about playing games, it's about being a man who sets his own standard and sticks to it. Most men fear losing her if they step back. Here's the controversial truth. If she's meant to be in your life, she will make the effort to stay. If she isn't, chasing will never make her commit. Trying to control her through attention or effort only diminishes your value. The man who understands this is the one who wins in the long run. So stop waiting for her approval. Stop overanalyzing her actions. Stop letting her options scare you. Start living. Focus on your growth, your energy, your purpose. Be the man who is so interesting, so confident, and so independent that she has to decide to be with you instead of you begging to be her option. Here's the final point. It's not easy. Stepping back feels unnatural if you've been conditioned to chase, but that's exactly why it works. Most men won't do it. They'll keep texting, over-explaining, and over-pursuing. By choosing a different path, by stopping the chase and living your life, you immediately separate yourself from the rest. You become rare, valuable, and irresistible. Remember, attraction is not about how much effort you put in. It's about the confidence and independence you radiate. Be the man she notices without you trying to make her notice. That's the secret men rarely learn, but it's the truth that makes all the difference. Be the prize, not the option. Let's get one thing straight. Most men have it completely backwards. They think being liked, being available, and bending to her schedule is the way to win her over. That's not how attraction works. If you're constantly accommodating, constantly saying yes, and constantly validating her, you're not the man she wants. You're the man she takes for granted. And here's the hard truth. Women are not drawn to neediness. They're drawn to value, confidence, and independence. Think about it. When was the last time you respected someone who agreed with everything you said, who dropped everything for you, or who begged for attention? Probably never. Yet so many men believe that this approach works with women. It doesn't. Being a man who is the prize means you set your own standard, you know your worth, and you never settle for less than respect. That's the magnetic energy that makes her see you differently. Here's the thing most men struggle with. They confuse kindness with weakness. They think if they stand firm, maintain boundaries, or don't overextend themselves, they're being difficult or cold. Wrong. Strength and self-respect are attractive. Neediness and over-availability are not. Women notice this on a subconscious level. When you operate from a place of confidence and clarity, she feels drawn to you. You become someone who adds value to her life, not someone who depends on hers. It's also about perspective. Many men worry that if they stop being overly available, she will lose interest. But the truth is the opposite. When you show that you have a life full of purpose, ambition, and focus, you create scarcity in the right way. She starts noticing the difference between you and every other guy who is constantly chasing. Scarcity isn't about games or manipulation. It's about demonstrating that your time and attention are valuable, and she has to choose to be a part of it. Another issue is clarity. Men who act like options send mixed signals, even unintentionally. They're hot one day, cold the next. They overinvest in her attention, but never demand the same respect in return. That inconsistency lowers attraction. On the other hand, a man who knows his value, communicates clearly, and keeps his life in order naturally draws attention. Clarity is magnetic. Women respect a man who respects himself. Here's a truth that's hard for many men to accept. If you let her see that you are desperate to be chosen, you're no longer the prize. You're just another guy in her orbit. You're competing with everyone else she has access to. But if you maintain your independence, pursue your goals, and never compromise your standards, you instantly rise above the competition. It's not about showing off or being arrogant. It's about demonstrating that your life has meaning, and anyone who wants to be a part of it has to step up. Most men also underestimate the power of confidence. Confidence isn't just about looks, money, or social status. It's about how you carry yourself, how you set boundaries, and how you respond to challenges. Women notice this in subtle ways. The tone of your voice, your posture, the way you handle situations. You don't need to brag or try too hard. Just by existing in a space where you value yourself, you communicate a quiet authority that is far more compelling than any gesture of chasing could ever be. And let's talk about desire. Women are naturally drawn to men who embody certainty and independence. They want someone who isn't afraid to walk away if things aren't aligned. That doesn't mean being unkind or indifferent. It means showing that your standards are non-negotiable. When you maintain that energy, she sees that you are the prize, not an option, and her desire grows organically. Finally, understand this. Attraction is not transactional. It's not about the effort you put in or the things you do to please her. It's about who you are and the energy you radiate. Men who operate from neediness, insecurity, or fear of losing her are invisible in terms of desire. Men who operate from value, confidence, and purpose are unforgettable. That's the man she wants. That's the man who becomes the obvious choice, even if she has other options. If you remember one thing from this section, let it be this. Your value is not determined by her attention. It's determined by how you live, how you carry yourself, and how much self-respect you demand. Be the man she notices. Be the man she respects. Be the man she wants, not because you begged, chased, or tried to prove yourself, but because you earned it by being the prize. Set boundaries, command respect. Let's be honest for a second. Most men today are walking around with zero boundaries, and it's killing their chances in dating and in life. You've probably seen it. Guys who agree to everything, never say no, and let women or anyone else push them around. They think being agreeable equals being attractive. It doesn't. It's a fast track to being ignored, undervalued, and taken for granted. If you want her to choose you, the first thing you need to understand is this. No one respects a man without boundaries. Here's the controversial truth that most men don't want to hear. If you're too available, too agreeable, or too eager to please, you've already lost. Women and people in general pick up on this immediately. There's no need to overthink it. When a man has no boundaries, he signals low self-worth. Low self-worth kills desire. On the other hand, a man who knows what he will and will not accept, who has standards and isn't afraid to enforce them, automatically commands attention and respect. Most men let their fear of losing her dictate their behavior. They say yes when they want to say no. They ignore their own priorities to accommodate hers. They overcommit emotionally to prove they care. And here's the wake-up call. This isn't love. This is desperation disguised as affection. Desperation is invisible in the moment, but toxic in the long run. Women sense it, even if they don't call it out. And it erodes attraction faster than anything else. Boundaries aren't about being rigid or controlling. They're about self-respect and clarity. When you set boundaries, you're showing her that your life has structure, your time has value, and your energy isn't disposable. You're also making it clear that if she wants to be in your world, she has to earn a place there. This doesn't mean making her jump through hoops or playing games. It means living your life with standards that protect your worth and your peace of mind. Let's get real for a second. Men who fail here often blame women for playing games or being confusing. That's an excuse. If you're constantly bending, compromising, or being pushed around, the problem isn't her. It's that you haven't claimed your own space yet. You're letting her define your value instead of owning it yourself. That's why so many men feel frustrated, confused, or rejected. Wake up. The power to be respected starts with you, not her. Boundaries also create desire because they show that you are a man of principle and purpose. Women want someone who doesn't compromise their standards for convenience or fear of loss. When you have clear limits, she sees that you're intentional with your time, your attention, and your emotions. That intentionality is rare, and rarity creates attraction. Being a man with boundaries isn't about pushing her away. It's about drawing her closer in a way that respects both of you. Here's the wake-up message for men. Too many of you are giving everything away and wondering why she doesn't commit. Too many of you are bending over backward to earn attention, validation, or love that should never be conditional. You're basically offering yourself as a free option, and then you're shocked when she doesn't choose you exclusively. That's not how it works. Respect, value, and choice are earned, not begged for. Boundaries also make you predictable in the best way. You're predictable in your principles and your integrity, not in your desperation. She knows where you stand. She knows that if she wants to be part of your life, she has to respect your rules, your time, and your energy. That's the dynamic that flips the whole situation. Instead of you trying to impress or win her, she decides to meet your standards because she sees a man who values himself enough to demand respect. Let's end this with a blunt truth. Men who fail to set boundaries are essentially handing over their power. They complain about women not choosing them, about attention being given elsewhere, about options they can't compete with. Meanwhile, the solution is right in front of them. Stop bending, stop chasing, stop compromising your standards. Wake up. Respect yourself first, and the respect, attention, and choice will follow naturally. Remember, being the man she chooses isn't about trying harder. It's about being unapologetically you, with standards that can't be shaken by options, distractions, or anyone else. Set your boundaries, command respect, and watch how the dynamic shifts. When you stop being an option, you become the prize. Here's the truth most men won't admit, and it might make some of you uncomfortable, but it's exactly why you need to hear it. Most men fail with women not because she has options, but because they've already given up on themselves. They settle for being the backup plan, the convenient option, the guy she talks to when no one else is available. And here's the part that's going to sting. If you're watching this and nodding along, you might already be doing this without realizing it. The controversial reality is simple. Women don't want a man who's scared, unsure, or desperate. They want a man who refuses to settle. That's it. Nothing else. You can try all the tricks, all the lines, all the strategies in the world, but if you're not operating from a place of high value, independence, and self-respect, you're invisible. She may notice you, she may flirt with you, but she will never choose you wholeheartedly if you let her options define your worth. And let's be honest, society has done a lot of damage here. Most men have been taught that persistence is romantic, that chasing proves love, that being needy is a sign of dedication. It's a lie. Chasing, over-explaining, bending over backward, it's weakness disguised as affection. And women notice. They respect strength, not desperation. They desire confidence, not insecurity. The man who is clear, consistent, and unapologetically himself is the man who stands out. Now, here's where the wake-up call hits even harder. If you're not the man she has to choose, someone else will be. And that man won't be begging for attention. He will be living his life, pursuing his goals, and standing firm in his value. You're not just competing with other guys. You're competing with every version of yourself that ever doubted your worth. Every time you chase, you lose a little power. Every time you bend, you give away a little attraction. And every time you settle for less, you make her options seem more appealing than you. This is controversial, yes, but it's the reality you need to face. Most men fail because they have forgotten who they are. They've allowed fear, neediness, and laziness to shape their interactions. They've put her choices above their own standards. They've given away the power they never realized they had. And while they complain, watch, or hope for a miracle, the man who understands value quietly takes the prize. He doesn't fight for attention, he commands it. He doesn't chase, he attracts. So here's my challenge to you. Stop giving away your power. Stop letting fear of loss dictate your actions. Stop settling for being an option. Wake up. Live your life with clarity. Build your confidence. Set boundaries. Pursue your goals. Be the man who is so interesting, so self-assured, and so magnetic that she has to choose you. And if she doesn't, that's not failure. That's a lesson. That's a reminder that your value isn't negotiable, that your worth isn't defined by her decision, that the right woman will see it and make the choice herself. I want to hear from you. Comment below with your experiences, times when you felt like you were competing, when you let options dictate your actions, or when you realized that stepping back changed everything. I'm going to read your comments and I'll reach out to connect. This isn't just theory. I've seen men transform when they take these lessons seriously, and I want you to be one of them. Share your truth, your struggles, your victories. Let's talk about it, let's break it down, and let's take action together. Here's the final controversial truth. Most men are living life as secondary characters in their own story because they've allowed women's choices to define their worth. Stop being secondary. Stop giving away your power. Stand up. Be the prize. Command respect. Live with standards that can't be shaken. That's how you stop being an option. That's how you make her choose you. And that's how you finally wake up to the kind of life and love you deserve. So comment below. Tell me your story. I'll reach out. Let's cut through the confusion, the fear, and the desperation. It's time to take control. It's time to stop chasing. It's time to start living. And the moment you do, everything changes.